of women's inferiority, anti-feminists began to draw not only, as before, on religion, philosophy and theology, but also on science, biology, experimental psychology, and so forth. Simone de Beauvoir, The Second Sex, 1949. The University of Cambridge at the end of summer, with the leaves going dry, is as beautiful as it must have been when the great evolutionary biologist Charles Darwin was an undergraduate here in the early 19th century. Up in the quiet and high northwest corner of the university's library, traces of him still exist. On a leather-topped table in the manuscripts room, I'm holding 3 letters, all yellowing. The ink faded and the creases brown. Together, they tell a story of how women were viewed in one of the most crucial moments of modern scientific history, when the foundations of biology were mapped out. The first letter, addressed to Darwin, is written in an impeccably neat script on a small sheet of thick cream paper. It's dated December 1881, and it's from a Mrs. Caroline Kennard, who lives in Brookline, a wealthy town outside Boston. Kennard was prominent in her local women's movement, pushing to raise the status of women, once making a case for police departments to hire female agents. She also had an interest in science. In her note to Darwin, she had one simple request. It was based on a shocking encounter she'd had at a meeting of women in Boston. Someone had taken the position of arguing that the inferiority of women, past, present and future, was based upon scientific principles, Kennard writes. The authority that allowed this person to make such an outrageous statement apparently came from no less than one of Darwin's own books. By the time Kennard's letter arrived, Darwin was only a few months away from death. He had long ago published his most important works, On the Origin of Species in 1859, and The Descent of Man, which came out 12 years later. They laid out how modern-day humans could have evolved slowly from simpler forms of life by developing characteristics that made it easier to survive and have more children. This was the bedrock of his theories of evolution, based on natural selection and sexual selection. And they blasted through Victorian society like dynamite, transforming how people thought about human history. His legacy was assured. In her letter, Kennard naturally assumes that a genius like Darwin couldn't possibly believe that women are naturally inferior to men. Surely his work had been misinterpreted. If a mistake has been made, the great weight of your opinion and authority should be righted, she entreats. The question to which you refer is a very difficult one. Darwin replies the following month from his home in Down in Kent. His letter is in a scrawling hand that's so difficult to read that someone had to copy the entire thing word for word onto another sheet of paper, kept alongside the original in the Cambridge University archives. But the handwriting isn't the most objectionable thing about his letter. It's what Darwin actually writes. If polite Mrs. Kennard was expecting the great scientist to reassure her that women aren't really inferior to men, she was about to be disappointed. I certainly think that women, though generally superior to men in moral qualities, are inferior intellectually, he tells her. And there seems to me to be a great difficulty from the laws of inheritance, if I understand these laws rightly, in their becoming the intellectual equals of man. It doesn't end there. For women to overcome this biological inequality, he adds, they would have to become breadwinners like men. And this wouldn't be a good idea because it might damage young children and the happiness of households. Darwin is telling Kennard that women aren't just intellectually inferior to men, but they're better off not aspiring to a life beyond their homes. It's a rejection of everything Kennard and the women's movement at the time were fighting for. Darwin's personal correspondence echoes what's expressed quite plainly in his published work. In The Descent of Man, he argues that males gained the advantage over females across thousands of years of evolution because of the pressure they were under to improve in order to win mates. Male peacocks, for instance, evolved bright, fancy plumage to attract sober-looking peahens, and male lions evolved their glorious manes. In evolutionary terms, he implies females can happily reproduce no matter how dull they are, because they're the ones that give birth. They have the luxury of sitting back and choosing a mate, while males have to work hard to impress them and compete with other males for their attention. In this vigorous competition for women over millennia, the logic goes, men have